Let us discuss what are allelomorphs or alleles. So let us read the definition first and let us interpret what this definition conveys. A pair of genes that control the two alternative expressions of the same character and have the same loci or sites in the homologous chromosomes. So when we talk about allelomorphs or alleles, what does this definition convey? This definition is conveying that supposingly for a tall pea plant, we have the dominant character as a capital T, and for a dwarf pea plant, the recessive character is small t, a lowercase letter t. So these are allelomorphs, these are the alleles because they are encoding for alternative expressions. How alternative expressions? Because this is encoding for tall plant and this is encoding for a dwarf plant, a short height plant. So a pair of genes that control the two alternative expressions, these are alternative expressions of the same character. Same character means they both are encoding for the height of the plant. One is encoding for tallness, this is encoding for tallness, and this is encoding for dwarfness. So the character is same. What is the character? The character is the height of the plant. Okay. So they are alleles, height of the plant. So the pair of genes that control the two alternative expressions like tallness and dwarfness of the same character, that is height of the plant, and have the same loci or sites in the homologous chromosomes. Now I hope that you remember what are homologous chromosomes. Supposingly we are here talking about a chromosome and this is another chromosome, and the locus or the site where this gene for tallness and the gene for dwarfness is present. I'll talk about here. This tallness and the dwarfness gene is present. The site is going to be the same in the homologous chromosomes. When they are going to encode for the same character and the gene encoding for that character is present on the same site, then these chromosomes are known as homologous chromosomes. They are known as homologous chromosomes. So remember, a pair of genes that control the two alternative expressions. Why alternative expressions? Means one is going to encode for tallness and the other encodes for dwarfness, means short height plant. This is going to encode for a plant which is going to have a height which is longer as compared to this, and this is encoding for dwarfness, means a plant which is going to have a short height. The same character is the height of the plant and have the same loci or sites in the homologous chromosomes. Means if the gene present on this chromosomes is at the same site, at the same locus on this chromosome, so this pair of chromosomes is known as homologous chromosomes. Why? Because the site of the presence of this gene and this gene which are encoding for the same character is same. So this pair of chromosomes is known as homologous chromosomes. Now this is what was the definition which was used earlier. Okay. Allelomorphs or alleles are a pair of genes that control the two alternative expressions. Now remember the word, that is alternative expressions of the same character and have the same loci or sites in the homologous chromosomes. But nowadays, if we talk about alleles, we don't always talk about alternative expressions. Now the pair of genes, both uppercase letter T and uppercase and lowercase letter t and both lowercase letter t, all these three pairs, all these three types are also considered as alleles. Remember earlier, whatever we have discussed in this concept, this was the definition of alleles. But nowadays, we are considering these pairs also as allelomorphs or allelic pairs. Why? Because now we consider alleles as the genes which are encoding for the same character. Genes which are encoding for the same character, they may or may not be alternative. Okay. The genes which are encoding for the same character, a pair of genes that control the same character. Now we don't use the word alternative expressions, we use a pair of genes that control the same character and have the same loci sites in the homologous chromosomes are known as allelomorphs. So now what is the definition that you are going to write? Why I am telling you this, that we have two definitions, and initially we had a definition like this, and now we have another definition. Why? Because there is a lot of confusion among students of how these allelomorphs or alleles are present and how they are written. But now let me make it very clear. Earlier it was considered that the alternative expressions, for example, if I am talking about allelomorphs or alleles according to this definition, they are going to be like this: a uppercase letter T and a lowercase letter t, which are encoding for what? For alternative expressions. But nowadays we don't use this word alternative expressions. Now we are calling all these pairs also as alleles. Okay, so a pair of genes that control the two alternative expressions is not there. The pair of genes that control, you can say, the same character and have same loci in the homologous chromosomes are known as allelomorphs or alleles. So these pairs are also considered as allelomorphs or alleles. Remember, a pair of genes that control same character and have the same loci or sites in the homologous chromosomes are considered as allelomorphs or alleles. So these are also alleles, remember. But according to the earlier definition, these were termed as, this pair was termed as allele. This is an example. You can talk about other examples also. For example, if we talk about round seeds and wrinkled seeds. So this dominant character is round seeds. So we have a uppercase letter R and a lowercase letter r. So earlier alleles were considered only this type of pair because it is going to encode for alternative expressions. This is for round seeds and this is for wrinkled seeds. But nowadays we consider these also as what? Alleles, allelic pairs, allelomorphs or alleles. Okay. So remember, I hope now this is very clear to you. What are alleles and allelomorphs? A pair of genes that control same character and have the same loci or sites in the homologous chromosomes are known as allelomorphs or alleles. You can give an example of these two, height of the plant or the round shape or the wrinkled shape of the seeds by this. Okay. So next we move on to, we have two types of alleles. We have dominant alleles or recessive alleles. Mendel called these as factors. So I have also written dominant allele or factor, or recessive allele or recessive factor. So what is going to happen? You can make out from the definition. Dominant allele or factor is that which can express itself in the presence as well as absence of recessive allele, and recessive allele or factor is the one which can express in the absence but not in the presence of dominant allele. So what do we mean by the statement? You all have studied the law of dominance, right? So what does that law of dominance conveys? This is what is meant by the first point. It can express itself in the presence as well as absence of its recessive allele. For example, we have talked about this dominant allele, that is for tallness, and this is a recessive allele, that is for dwarfness. So when the dominant allele is present, the phenotype means whatever you are going to observe from the outer appearance will be dominated by the dominant allele. So the plant is going to appear taller. Okay. So dominant allele is that allele which is going to express itself in the presence as well as absence of this recessive allele. Okay, this is a recessive one. Remember, we write the recessive allele in lowercase letter and we write the dominant allele in uppercase letter. So for this pair, the plant is going to have a height that is taller. It means we will have a taller plant. We will not see the characteristic of dwarfness. We will not see a short height plant. So remember, when this is the case, remember dominant allele is that allele which is going to express itself whether this is present or not present. Remember, if dominant is present, this is going to be expressed. This is not going to be expressed. Okay. Next, in case of recessive allele, if we have a recessive allele with a dominant allele, so this is not going to be expressed, means the plant is still going to have a tall height. Plant is going to be tall. Okay. So remember that this allelic pair, if it is there, the recessive allele is not going to express. It can only express when we have a pair like this. Okay, so it can express in the absence but not in the presence of dominant allele. If dominant allele will be present, it is not going to express itself. But if the dominant allele is absent, this is going to be expressed. Means now we will be having a plant which has short height, a short height plant. Next, we move on to the second point of difference between these two. We have it codes for a complete functional polypeptide or enzyme that expresses it fully. It codes for incomplete non-functional polypeptide or enzyme which fails to express it in heterozygous condition. So this is the key point which tells you that why this dominant allele is going to express itself and why this recessive allele is not going to express itself. So the key point is, remember, for dominant allele, it codes for a complete functional polypeptide or enzyme that expresses it fully. Why it is going to be expressed? Here is the answer. Because this dominant allele encodes for a complete functional polypeptide in the form of an enzyme that expresses it fully. But in this case, recessive allele or factor, it encodes for incomplete non-functional polypeptide. So it is incomplete non-functional polypeptide in the form of an enzyme which fails to express in the heterozygous condition. So what is the heterozygous condition? This is this heterozygous condition. So if there is a heterozygous condition, that recessive allele will not be able to express itself. It will only express in the homozygous condition. This is the homozygous condition because we have same alleles. Okay, we have lowercase letter t, so these are homozygous, and this is heterozygous because we also have a dominant allele over here. So in this heterozygous condition, that recessive allele is not going to express itself because it encodes for incomplete non-functional polypeptide which fails to express in the heterozygous condition. So I hope now this is clear. Let us recall what are alleles. Alleles are a pair of genes that control same character and have the same loci or sites in the homologous chromosomes. You can cite a few examples. And then the difference between dominant allele and recessive allele, it is going to express itself no matter the presence of a recessive allele, but it is not going to express itself in the presence of a dominant allele. You know how this can be expressed. And why dominant allele is going to express? Because it encodes for a complete functional polypeptide that expresses it fully, and this recessive allele code for incomplete non-functional polypeptide which fails to express it in heterozygous condition. Means for this condition, this recessive allele will not be expressed. It will not be able to express itself because of the presence of this dominant allele. Okay.